Good evening, Nigerian compatriots, friends, and family on social media, as well as our highly esteemed global partners. Our press statement today is part one of a series on Vice President Osinbajo's Errand trip to the United States of America. Our press statement will focus on the unfortunate national ridicule and the disrepute to which the ongoing trip to the USA by Vice President Yemi Osinbajo, SAN, is unwittingly exposing Nigeria, especially since it is a frantic and deceptive effort at reassuring some members of the Nigerian community of Buhari administration's so-called, and I quote, determination to secure the country and prosper the people, end quote. The forum with the Nigerians in diaspora was one of the activities lined up for the VP during the United States visit. The Vice President Osinbajo is also built to meet with the U.S. Vice President counterpart, Governor Mike Pence, and members of the business community in an effort to attract U.S. investments to Nigeria. In discussing Osinbajo's presidential cabal preempted errand delivery to the U.S. government and the Nigerian diaspora, we shall, for ease of understanding, format our press statement presentation as follows. 1. First, due to a lack of time, we shall make brief references and draw highlights from Osinbajo's specific responses to only two topics covered in the 40 stage-managed questions. These predetermined questions were asked by seemingly well-coached but very unenthusiastic audience. Secondly, as part of the format, we shall juxtapose the timely response of the former president of Nigeria, Dr. Goodluck Jonathan, to Osinbajo's answers in response to the questions asked at the town hall meeting, point for point. And thirdly, and lastly, we shall make our observations, conclusions, and recommendations on some, not all, of the critical issues raised during the town hall meeting, with particular reference and emphasis to the perception of Nigeria by the U.S. government and the public, engendered by the relevant interlocutions and publications. The first topic we shall cover is on the security and safety of people in Nigeria. Whereas in a chat with the Interview magazine, Mr. Femi Adesina, the special advisor on media and publicity to President Muhammadu Buhari, had said, and I quote, "The security challenges are enormous. Insurgency, banditry, kidnapping, armed robbery, communal strifes, criminality, etc. These are truly dire times," end quote. However, Professor Osinbajo stated in a sharp turn at the town hall meeting that, and I quote, "there is really nothing serious to worry about because we are taking the necessary steps to address issues relating to harder farmer clashes, kidnapping, and others," end quote. Really? With this statement, Osinbajo used the outdated and worn-out narrative of harder farmer clashes to trivialize and dismiss the grave plague of genocide ethnic cleansing visited on indigenous Nigerians by nomadic Fulani herdsmen terrorists. Coming into Nigeria from all over West Africa under the specific invitation of Nigeria's Fulani minority ethnicity, especially by FUNAM, Fulani nationality movement. Furthermore, in trying to downplay the issue of Boko Haram's abduction and detention of the 16-year-old Christian girl Leah Sharibu and her adverse ordeal with the terrorist group, as well as the world's attention being generated by her mother's ongoing advocacy in the USA. Osinbajo diverted away from the question by saying that the Buhari administration had successfully rescued many Christians from Boko Haram since the administration gained power in 2015. What an unbefitting lying and diversionary response from a supposedly smart lawyer, a senior advocate of Nigeria for that matter. My question is, do you frantically scratch your ankle in response to a bad itch on your back? The answer is a big no. You only scratch where it itches. Osinbajo did exactly opposite with the critical question of security, dodging and deflecting. Osinbajo failed to respond to the most nagging and public Nigerian issues of the day as far as the U.S. foreign relations policy doctrine towards Nigeria is concerned. And these policies include the Fulani masterminded and executed genocide and ethnic cleansing across Nigeria. Number 2, the speedily eroding religious freedom and human rights. And thirdly, Leah Sharibu as the new global face of the denial of religious freedom in Nigeria. The second topic is on the social welfare and poverty alleviation. Professor Osinbajo said, and I quote, "The whole essence of the Buhari administration's policy and programs is to take majority of Nigerians out of poverty. Furthermore," he said, and I quote, "the reason why we decided to have what we call social investment program is basically because it is one of the ways to address the problem of poverty in Nigeria," end quote. And berating past administrations, Osinbajo said, and I quote, "Nigeria has never, I repeat, never systematically addressed the poverty problem in the way that India, which used to have the largest population of poor people, have done," end quote. And now, he says, our National Social Investment Program has addressed the question of getting people out of poverty and also addressed the major concerns of poverty, end quote. Haba Yemi Osinbajo. Aso Rock must have a deafening and blinding effect on its occupants, to the pain and suffering of Nigeria's maddening crowd, who are composed of extreme poverty-stricken masses. Now, some of the programs that Vice President Osinbajo referred to during the town hall meeting were the administration's microcredit schemes and the disbursement of 5,000 naira monthly as stipends to some people, I say some people, under the conditional cash transfer program. How do you define or identify these some people? B. Government Enterprise and Empowerment Program, GEEP, in which interest-free loans are made to petty traders under the Trader Money Scheme. How do you identify these people who would benefit from these programs? Where are the records? C. School feeding program extended to children in public schools as a single free meal every day. How many children? Which schools? How do you identify the schools? Now, the former President Jonathan Goodluck, in the nightnigernews.com of June 25, 2019, assertively countered Vice President Osinbajo, saying, and I quote, "It is not true that there were no social investment programs under my Jonathan's administration. On the contrary, the most successful social intervention program ever put in place in Nigeria were introduced and implemented by my Jonathan government," end quote. Jonathan also said that as at 2010, Nigeria had about 112.7 million people living in extreme poverty. There was nothing in place. There was no social investment program. There was no social security policy. No way of taking people out of poverty, end quote. Saying, and I quote, "My attention has been drawn to statements made by the so-called Pastor Yemi Osinbajo, who, as usual, made false statements to the media in an effort to explain away his non-performance in office," end quote. Jonathan further claimed that the statement by Osinbajo is a lie, and it is very easy to disprove Mr. Osinbajo's fallacious assertions, end quote. According to the United Nations and the World Poverty Clock, Nigeria overtook India as the world's headquarters for extreme poverty on Tuesday, June 26, 2018, under the Buhari administration. When Nigeria's population of extreme poor people increased to an unprecedented 87 million, end quote, meaning that this figure for Nigeria had significantly dropped from 102.7 million people in 2010, way below the 87 million people in 2018. So now by 2018, the population had risen back and going further back up to 87 million people in extreme poverty in Nigeria. If, in quote, according to both the United Nations and the World Poverty Clock, Nigeria's population of extreme poor people hit an unprecedented number of 87 million in 2018 under General Buhari, how is it possible that there were 112.7 million people living in extreme poverty in 2010? So those figures for 2010 were probably fallacious. If that were true, then Nigeria would have overtaken India as the world's headquarters for extreme poverty in 2010, because as at that time, India did not have such numbers of extremely poor people. You see that no matter how far and fast Osinbajo's regular falsehood travels, it will always be overtaken by truth. The truth is that the period between 2010 and 2015, we witnessed the most radical reduction in poverty ever in Nigerian history. For instance, according to the annual Global Hunger Index published by the US-based International Food Policy Research Institute, Whereas hunger increased in other parts of sub-Saharan Africa for the first time since records were kept, hunger reduced in Nigeria by 20% in 2013 under my Jonathan administration. I encourage my readers to Google this information, end quote. And in quote, I should note that according to the same International Food Policy Research Institute, hunger in Nigeria has risen every year since 2015, end quote. And you all are witnesses. You know how much food costs in the market, and you know whether your income is able to keep up with the food needs in your family. Now, to our observations, conclusions, and recommendations. We observe Osinbajo's blatant denial of the actual reality of widespread kidnapping for ransom, rape of women and children, killing of farmers and church parishioners in their places of worship, etc. We conclude that because kidnapping has not yet extended to Osinbajo in Aso Rock, he has the luxury of being shielded from reality. However, Osinbajo should not forget that family members of people in Aso Rock, even in high places, have experienced the menacing scourge of kidnapping. We observe that Osinbajo would rather disparage the social media than disparage the brutal Fulani jihadist terrorist militia and Boko Haram activities. We recommend that the Buhari-Osinbajo administration should become more appreciative of the role of social media in transformation of society. They should embrace and promote more engagement of the free press and social media among its citizens in order to discuss tangible factors affecting their lives, especially towards achieving a better country. We recommend that Vice President Osinbajo should transform himself from being a merely good errand person, delivering propagandist errands, and succumbing to being, in quote, his master's voice, end quote. He needs courage and determination. He can do it. We observe that Osinbajo did not have any specific response to the failure of the Buhari administration to release Leah Sharibu from the forced abduction and enslavement by Boko Haram. Leah Sharibu, a 16-year-old who on her strong conviction refused to renounce her Christian faith. We conclude that the Buhari-Osinbajo administration has no short or long-term solution to forcefully or otherwise demand and ensure Leah's release. Also, Buhari's administration does not know how to face the nation and the global community on the sad reality of their incompetence towards Leah Sharibu. We recommend that the Buhari-Osinbajo administration eschew their arrogance and pride. They should seek global assistance, especially that of the United States of America, in the matter of Nigeria's alarming insecurity, and specifically the immediate unconditional release of Leah Sharibu. We observe that Osinbajo is going around trying his best to deceive diaspora Nigerians, especially Christians, in his self-delusion that diaspora Nigerians are mere gullible minions. We ask, where is Osinbajo's assumed toga of Christianity and pastoral concern? Which toga enabled him to be selected to the foremost Christian political leadership in Nigeria? Where is it? We recommend that Osinbajo should stop his grandstanding and inordinate posturing as a pastor. Furthermore, he should seek God in true penitence and repentance and follow on the straight and narrow path of holiness and righteousness. We observe that while Osinbajo may deceive a handful of diaspora Nigerians, most diaspora Nigerians see through his veil of deception and are aware that his malodorous verbiage is despicable in a manner akin to the, and I quote, emperor has no cloth, end quote. Yet the emperor is gleefully dancing naked in the market square. We observe that Osinbajo may be wasting his energy and time trying to convince the world, and especially the American government and its people, of what the Buhari administration is not. We observe and note that American institutions have very serious global intelligence network. They critically study current data and projections from well-reputed global institutions on the following topics: A, capital development; B, economic development indices; C, employment and poverty rates; D, social conflict levels; E, infrastructural status; F, institutional strength and weaknesses; and G, government policy trust or any lack thereof. We observe that the government of the United States knows Nigeria more than he, Osinbajo, and the entire Buhari administration can ever understand. And that the more Osinbajo may attempt to spin the Nigerian social conflict and security, pervasive poverty and economic hardship, as well as unbridled nepotism narrative, the more he will be ridiculing his own laughable persona and that of the entire Buhari administration along with himself. We conclude that the least people Osinbajo should be trying to convince with his tall tales by midnight campfire are the American legislature and the Trump administration. We recommend that Osinbajo should make good effort to understand and appreciate the political change of guard within the U.S. executive arm of government, which is, in effect, the new era of Trump that is light years different from Obama's. We recommend that Osinbajo should carefully study and know that unlike his predecessors, the Trump administration, one, is not beholden to Islamization in any part of the world, but is keenly raising the standard on global religious freedom. Two, that the Trump administration is not in any way apologetic for his, and I quote, country first, end quote. That the Trump administration respects truthfulness and transparency in its dealing with global partners. So, if any global partner is deficient in truthfulness and transparency, they cannot have any headway with the Trump administration. 4, the Trump administration expects high physical and intellectual capacity and energy, as well as excellence from country leaderships across the world. We therefore conclude that based on all this foregoing, that the Buhari government unfortunately does not possess the ingredients and capacity to engage Trump's America at par. There is no recommendation for that at this time. Thank you.